Oh, and then just kind of like how you when you're like I'm about to make a comeback necessarily. How do you like what's the training like out there? Are you training with your old compadres in Texas? Are you do you have something in Florida going on? What how do you get back to I'm about to get back to it?
You mean like in ring training?
Yeah.
I don't do in ring training.
It's
Um,
just right there. You're Keith Lee. You're limitless. You go
don't.
for it.
It's okay. I'm gonna level something here, and this is where you'll really understand why I'm confident in who I am and what I do. Now, don't get me wrong. I believe in training, and I believe it's a good thing to do. When I came back from the almost dead situation, I did a lot of in ring training, maybe
Mhm.
like 5 or 6 weeks before I returned, but it wasn't enough time to get myself together and be back on a TV screen, if that makes sense. Uh, because the after effects of that whole ordeal left me in a position where things like running and some of my favorite versions of cardio were extremely difficult, and some were just not even, it couldn't be a thought because it was too taxing on me and the recovery was too long. So at that time, I did a lot of in ring training and a lot of training outside of that to try and get back into a position to be ready. That's probably the only time where I've been out that I have put that much effort into returning. And it's
Mhm.
part of it was at the end of the day, I was prepared to change my entire career because for that entirety of those 5 or 6 months that I was out doing all of that, it was basically expected that if I did too much, I would die, and wrestling wasn't going to be a thing for me going forward. Coming out of that and learning otherwise, I was just excited to be able to do this still in whatever capacity that would be. I was just happy to be able to take part and still be a credit to the industry. Now, outside of that, I've never been out for more than maybe 2 or 3 months, I
Mhm.
suppose. I've never been truly injured. I'm very fortunate in that. Um, a lot of times, and I don't know why this is, but in terms of like needing a ring to get myself ready has never been a thing for me. And movement in the ring is not something that is difficult for me. For what you see in the ring, particularly today, is a fraction of what I'm capable of. And I like it that way because I am always a guarantee, regardless of what happens. If I get into that ring and I choose to do a thing, here's a great example. The time that Dijak monkey flipped me in one of our first matches in NXT, even before then, we could take this back to the Independence. A match I had with Raymond Rowe. People would know him as Eric today. Guy tried to monkey flip me, and I flipped to my to my feet. I had never trained to do that. I never worked on doing that. I just said I'm going to do this, and then I did it. The first time I ever dove out of a ring, I've never trained to dive out of a ring. I've never worked on diving out of a ring. I've never worked on moonsaults. If I choose to do a thing, I just go do it. That is not normal.
No.
I will tell you that right away. People hurt themselves trying to do these things on the regular. So, in terms of that in physics itself, I am, and I've learned this. I didn't understand years ago, but I am an anomaly. So, what I do is probably, I'm not the best person to ask, like, what do I do to work on this?
Hmm.
Because I don't know. I just go do it.
No, you gave it up. You said exactly what happens. You're Keith Lee. You're limitless.
I mean, that's what it is, right? Like I was like, all those things he's describing, those sound like limits, but
Right. He doesn't have any of those.
Yeah, I guess when you look at it that way, see, for me, that terminology, limitless, was never about what I'm capable of. It was always about my mindset and how I view life.
Mhm.
And fans were actually who decided they started calling me that. And I was like, you know what? That's fitting, and that's kind of how I view life as a whole. I think I will adopt that, and I did.